Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk about people who are online, on the internet, who are trying to basically mess with people's minds. This is my opinion, by the way. I could be wrong in all of this on how I see it, and that's what it is. It's going to be how I see it, and one size doesn't fit all anyway. Read the disclaimer in the description box below this video on YouTube. But these are people, to me, are trying to mess with people's minds online and trying to twist it in a certain way that's basically normalizing it all around. It's kind of like a bit of narcissism. They're normalizing narcissism, just normalizing that they can do this. They're getting a kick out of doing it, and twisting people's minds, trying to, like they're sitting there watching what people do and laughing about it, and that's the only reason behind it. Now I'll get into it. Okay, now I don't know how long now, I have seen or heard this kind of story by various people. Okay, it's not the same person, and they never put it off as though it's somebody else's story. They put it off as their own story, but it's basically the same story, just one or two things might be tweaked from one person to another. Okay, and of course it could be just fake accounts or whatever, but let me tell you the stories, and this is basically how they go. It's somebody who says that that they've been seeing a counselor, or the tweak would be they'd say a therapist, okay, and they've been seeing this person for 10 plus years. The tweak there would be, some might say 10 years, some might say 12 years, whatever it is, and they'll say things like for once every week, twice every week. The tweak would be twice or 3 times. Like I said, just a little bit of differences in the story. But the rest of the story is pretty much the same too. Is that they were seeing this counselor for 10 plus years, like I said, once to 3 times a week, whatever it was for that person's story, and that they were feeling that the counseling sessions weren't going right. At some point, 10 plus years down the road, they felt that it was time. It just wasn't going right. That something had started going wrong. Okay, and basically they felt that it was the counselor's fault. Okay, the counselor's fault. And that's always the case. They feel that it's the counselor's fault, that the counselor is wrong. Or the therapist, if they decide to say therapist, is wrong. So they had decided, they were, thinking that it's time to end it. This would be the client. The client is saying that it's time to end this, counseling relationship. So, but in every story, right before the client just, does something to end it, does end it, the counselor does, or the therapist, whatever they choose, and says that the counselor says it's not a, that it's run its course, basically, that it's time to end this, that the client has. And the client usually has done something like has stopped opening up. Now some would say, well, if the client suddenly started feeling that this relationship wasn't working, maybe so. But they're all along the way, the whole time, they're trying to state that it's all the counselor's fault. Okay, that's very important to say. The client is all right, the counselor is all wrong. Okay, and they'll also throw in something that basically saying that the counselor says that the client is harming the counselor. Okay, somehow like it's putting the counselor through some kind of suffering. Okay, or the client is putting the counselor through too much, or it's too deep. Somehow they're still going to state that the counselor is wrong. Okay, now the counselor ended this. Says you have a month to go, and here's I refer you to this one or that one. Here you can, it's your choice. And but we need to end this. This counseling relationship is over. Okay, then it'll go on to state, whomever, male, female, doesn't matter, will state as the client that they felt that it was so very difficult for them, and they cried and they were so upset that this counselor, after they've known the counselor 10 plus years and seen him so often, that the counselor would end this relationship because they were feeling that, really had a close friendship, a close bond, a mother-father, or mother-mother, not mother-father, a child to mother or child to father, relationship. They were the child and the counselor was the parent. And that they would state that. So it was a way of getting people to think in terms of, that how dare a counselor, the counselor is the one who's too enmeshed. The counselor is the one who did wrong by allowing that relationship in the first place, for not see that the client was basically seeing them as their true parent or their true friend, that the counselor should have seen that. But anyway, you get the gist. The storyline's pretty much the same, different actors, different people putting it up, whatever way they do, story or video, whatever it is, they say this, do the same story, as if it's their own story. Now, first of all, like I said, these are all my opinions, and I could be wrong on all of this. But I cannot imagine a counseling relationship with one counselor or one therapist, and that's it, just the one counselor, the one therapist, go on for 10 plus years. Okay, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because yeah, it can happen. I just can't see it being that common to happen. Plus, now add on to that, 3 times a week for 10 plus years, I would say that's very unlikely. I can't say that it won't happen. It could happen, but I just think it's unlikely. Okay, so that part would be a setup to say that that the counselor is using the client for money. Okay, that's another part of it. And it's like as though they want people to see all this and to back it up and to think, oh my goodness, this is what would happen to me. I'd get with a counselor, and the counselor would want to see me for years and 1 to 3 times a week. All that money, you see? Okay, now as far as it being the same story, I can't say that it doesn't happen, but to me, my opinion, could be wrong, that is very highly unlikely to have the same story. Different people having the same story. No. I just don't see it. I don't see that it can be that coincidental. Okay, so anyway, you get the gist. How do you see all this so far yourself? What do you see is the reason for this? Why would you see the reason? Why would you think that somebody would do this? Now, I can think of various reasons why somebody would do this, including that they're abused. Like I said earlier, they're abusive. They're wanting to twist people's minds, and they're sitting back and laughing at people who do. And I would say it as something that, like these days, people just say narcissistic abusers. They're not diagnosing, but they might be trying to diagnose, but only a counselor, somebody who's licensed or whatever by the state government. And yeah, so they call it narcissistic abuse. I can see somebody doing that. I can see somebody who's abusive all around doing that to get their kicks. Okay, that's how we used to put it. They just get their kicks out of doing this, and they're sitting back and laughing, and they just want the attention. It could be somebody just wanting attention, and they know that's a good way to get the attention. Yeah, and it could be people who would benefit financially from it by saying that all counselors or all therapists are bad, or trying to put out there that they're bad. You see? Anyway, I think that's enough. I think some people will understand what I'm saying. But how do you see it? And what kind of story do you have like that, that you have seen go around like that to try to twist people's minds? And do you see it in any other way than people trying to twist people's minds? Or do you see this story in any other way? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you want to subscribe to this channel and you haven't already, you can click the circle icon that pops up. If you want to watch another video on this channel, you can click one of the rectangles that pop up. Like, subscribe, comment, and share on your own social media if you would. And I'll talk to y'all in another video. Bye.